One, two, three. Hey everybody, welcome to the Rat Sever podcast, where everybody has Sever fever and says, oh yeah, it's on at last. Okay. Hey everybody, what's up? So this episode, I am interviewing and talking with Cynthia Levin, who I met at the amazing Duplex open mic, which I had never been to before. I'd never heard of it.
No way.
Um, and I always go on Bad Slava. Maybe they just put it on Bad Slava recently. I don't know, but I had never seen it on there, and I just all of a sudden went. But it had been there like for years. Like,
Yeah, it's like I used to live here from 2000 to 2005.
oh,
And I was doing
oh,
it then. And it was downstairs where the cabaret is, where people do
that's
the
crazy.
piano and the piano player and people sing along with them. That's where we used to do it. And then people would just sort of be walking in and out, and it would be a little chaotic, but also full of energy. And then we'd end up staying there for hours and having a blast and doing singing and making fun of people.
Now I have to go more often. Yeah. Yeah, now I have to just go more because it was really fun, and I just don't believe it had been there this whole time. Because how did you hear about it? Like,
Well, because I did it but way back then, so 20 some years
oh, so
ago.
just like,
Yeah, so it was still going on. My friend, also knew Michael Brill. Excuse me, I've got splotches in my eyeglasses. Um, Michael Brill, who hosts it, used to come there, do it then, and Poppy Kramer used to host it back then. She's passed now, but she was our friend, and so Michael kept it going for her, basically.
so how did people find out about open mics back then? Like,
Really, you'd go to one, you'd find out about another. It was, yeah,
but like,
so,
was there listings online or in the newspaper, like, or you just went to places and asked if they had an open mic? Or
um, I honestly think just like for me, I started stand up back in 90, no, yeah, when did I start it? In 87. No, that's a lie. I'm full of it. I
okay.
started in 1990. That's when I started
Oh,
stand up. Yeah, I know, a long time ago.
okay.
87 was when I moved to LA, but initially. But yeah, 90, 89, 90, I started. And you would just go to one show and then people would tell you about another show and then somebody would book you on their show. And sort of the same way it happens today, except for we didn't have online to go on to. And most comics, most comics don't even look on there anyway. So really it's always been word of mouth
Yeah.
and asking people. It's a good community. Yeah.
Yeah, so just going around, yeah, because I had just happened to see it on Bad Slava that day, and so I went. Did you ever go on Bad Slava?
Yeah. I was doing
Oh,
that when I moved back from London back to LA. That's when I heard about it. That was again in like I don't even know how long ago. I don't know, but yeah, I mean,
okay.
it's not a. I mean, it's a site. It's helpful. You know, but you can't really tell what a mic's like unless you talk to people or and go yourself. Really,
Yeah.
you know.
So it was interesting. You were talking about the painting behind you
Yeah.
was um of Red Skelton.
Yeah. So Red Skelton, my friend Adam Barnhart is a really funny comic in LA. He gave it to me because he used to have a place called the Clown House in LA that he taught stand up out of and did shows out of in downtown LA. And there were clowns everywhere. I mean, like Ronald McDonald was sitting next to you while you're, getting ready for your set. I mean,
Oh,
it's a freak show. So I mean, clowns everywhere, like
cool.
little ones, big ones, giant ones, huge, like crazy. Anyway, and that was one of the better ones because this is painted by Red Skelton, who is a famous comedian
Hmm.
back in the day, and it is a painting of Carol Burnett. And my
Oh,
friend
he's the
Adam,
artist. He
he's the
painted it
artist. He
of
painted
Carol
it,
Burnett.
and he painted that of Carol Burnett,
Oh,
and as a clown, and which she is a clown, and yeah. So I've
wow,
got
that is
that
cool.
little inspiration there.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted you to tell me that on the podcast because it's so random. My math teacher in high school, which I went to high school in Lake City, Minnesota, just a very small town.
Oh, here comes your accent, Lake City, Minnesota. You just said Minnesota. Yeah, go on then. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you betcha.
Oh
You're
yeah.
darn tootin'. Okay. Um, okay, so what's so crazy is my math teacher in high school, she was somehow her husband was related to Red Skelton.
Oh wow.
And she and do you know what? I think the only reason she told me, I think because my name is Rhett.
Yeah.
It sounds like red. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know. And then I
Or
was
I don't know
saying,
why she told us, but
yeah, but that's
yeah.
probably why, because that's what makes me think of when I hear Red, I think of Red Skelton, like the
Oh,
way it's
okay.
said. But his name is Red, isn't it? It's Red.
Yeah.
Hmm. So,
Oh, and her name was Miss Skelton.
oh wow.
Yeah, because she was
Was she
married
married?
to
Yeah.
um yeah.
Who'd she marry again?
Like some it was like Red Skelton was like her husband's uncle or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it
Got it.
was
Yeah.
so yeah.
That's so cool. Hmm.
And what's also weird is that like because I'm trying to think of like why she told us that. But because it's weird just because like I never, saw stand up as an art form.
Hmm.
Cause like I was even snooty, cause like I told you I like the Criterion Collection movies and like
Yeah.
art house cinema and like
Right.
all this snooty, like smart stuff.
Hmm.
And so I was even like that when I was younger. And um I just never respected comedy as an art form for some reason
Hmm.
until I started watching more stand up
Hmm.
and then really appreciated like, oh, like this is like really
It can
smart.
be smart.
It
Hmm.
can be smart,
Yeah.
intellectual,
Yeah.
artistic,
Yeah.
you know. And so then um
You know.
I respected it more. And then just eventually because like I was a frustrated artist, like I couldn't do music. I thought I couldn't write poetry and like I was trying all this stuff and
Mhm.
then I just one day realized like, oh, I should go to an open mic.
Mm.
And I
Oh
just
wow.
have
Uh-huh.
never stopped
That's so
since
great. How
since
long ago did you
2012.
start? 2012.
Yeah.
Great. That's so great.
So I guess 10 years now.
Yeah.
Um and so yeah, and in high school was when I happened to write my first joke, but I didn't even um think of it as like a comedy context,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like
Sure.
it
Yeah.
was just saying something funny and then retrospectively I realized, oh, that's when I wrote my first joke.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
and it was because like school lunch is like really gross, and they would have this beef stroganoff,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, oh, I hate beef stroganoff. I prefer stroganoff the beef.
You prefer the stroganoff to beef. But you prefer to stroke off the beef. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah,
I
and
never thought
so
about beef stroganoff that way, but now I have. I don't like either. No, I'm just kidding.
okay.
I'm joking.
Um, oh, you do like
No, I mean, I suppose, you know what I mean. You got to do what you got to do. I suppose if you like the person, it's not so bad.
okay, that's good. Um, yeah, so and also I have to say, you remind me of um Penny Marshall, the director. Do people say that?
I've felt I have always felt a connection to her ever since
Mm.
Laverne and Shirley. Plus, because she was like bigger,
Oh,
she was like a bigger chick, you know, and she was kind of rough around the edges and not very careful. Masculine, a man in a woman in a slacks. I don't know, but anyway, um, no, a little bit, but that's I've always related to her. So her energy and her vibe. And I have been told that. Yes, I have been told that. Actually, I went to an audition. I met a casting director recently. I can't remember what the hell it
mm,
was, but it was like a big person.
oh,
Oh no, that's a lie. I keep lying. I remember now. You know how
okay.
you like you associate it with like how you made it, how you felt, and that was what it was.
Oh,
It was an agent that I went to go meet with that did sign me, and they said
oh,
that
cool.
you had when I auditioned, I had to do a monologue, you know, and this is only a couple of years ago, just
Oh, nice.
before the pandemic actually, so a few years ago,
Oh,
and I in LA, and he said, yeah, you're you have a you're very Penny Marshall. He's like, you got a great Penny Marshall vibe. So again, this is recent,
Yeah.
hopefully I'll have like a 1% of her career, just 1% of it, and I will have achieved nothing. I'm just kidding. Something.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, we're back. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you were kidding. Like,
I I was kidding.
but then you acted it so well when you were like, "Oh, we're back."
I'm
And I'm
sorry.
like,
Sorry. Thought we went off
okay.
air for a
It
second.
was very convincing. Okay, so yeah, I guess like I wanted to ask what um like without thinking, what are like, you know, your favorite movies or just like movies that really had a profound effect on you that kind of changed you maybe?
Okay, I know those right away.
Okay.
There's the two that pop immediately. First is Ordinary People directed by
Okay.
Robert Redford with yeah.
1980 Best Picture, yeah.
Yes, I'm afraid so. And yeah, so that really affected me. I was remember being in the back seat of my parents' van in the last row with my like feet up on the window, and because I have five brothers and sisters, and we all went out to see the movie, and we came back home, and I remember feeling like I couldn't talk, like I couldn't speak, and I was full of like emotion, like it was like so if that's 1980, that means I was 15, I guess, or 14, somewhere in there. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
how old I am. And so, but I remember being in the back of that van and thinking, this felt so much like the pain that I was feeling inside me. Like it was,
Wow.
yeah. And I don't want to get into specifics, but it was like, it kind of woke me up emotionally to what was actually going on inside me. Because, as kids, we don't address like what's going on with us. We just sort of, whatever, unconsciously
Yeah.
bop around. And so that movie woke me up emotionally, and that was intense, very intense. And then the second one, which was on the total opposite end of emotion, which was Young Frankenstein, and that is
Mhm.
probably my favorite movie of all time.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen both those.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Um
I'm grateful for that.
no, yeah, I love um like movies before my time also. And also it's funny, I was also 15 when I was woken up by movies with 2001 A Space Odyssey because I realized that movies could be an art form and weren't just these commercial pieces of crap sold to us to entertain us,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought, you know, that was the only world of entertainment because that's all I knew.
Yep.
So when I saw 2001 A Space Odyssey, I'm like, oh, so this can actually be like dignified, respectable art that is thought provoking and hard to digest.
Mm-hmm.
That's so much more interesting than, sorry, Will Ferrell, but
So
but
yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
interesting.
Like,
Yeah, totally, totally.
yeah.
So
But which is
what
sorry.
about what about that movie though? What did you think was really provocative and also thought provoking and that made you think something different?
I guess because it was like contemplating our life outside the planet, which, because I grew up Mormon, and so
I would think that every movie would have woken you up then.
yeah.
Anything, anything. Is that a
um,
toilet paper commercial? Wow. No.
yeah, I guess because yeah, like just religious life is so limiting to like this planet, and so then when like you know they're talking about there could be a baby's fetus floating out there giantly, no, I don't know, but like
Was that in the
uh,
movie?
yeah, you remember like the
I
giant
don't remember it. I
baby
haven't seen it in a
fetus.
million years, but I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
I don't. And it didn't. I mean, I probably didn't even understand it. I don't even remember if I saw it. I mean, I know of
Oh,
it,
or
and I
maybe just
know a
clips.
lot of reference to it, and references, and I've seen clips of it, but I don't know if I've actually seen the whole thing. I don't know. So
Oh,
that's why
so
I
then
was
you
asking you.
oh, so then you probably haven't. But that's interesting that it's such a movie that is like in the fabric of our culture, that and it's been referenced and you've seen clips so much that it's almost like you felt that you've seen it.
Right. I wasn't sure.
But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so then you should definitely watch it then
I
because
know, and they were just talking about it yesterday on
oh,
NPR because of the new not Star Wars. What was the TV show that used to be on? They're doing a remake of it.
the
It's come
Star
out.
Trek. Oh,
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek.
Yeah, so they were talking about it as,
Um,
comparing it to the new Star Trek is as good as Space Odyssey 2001. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Yeah.
oh, like in terms of the special effects and
I
stuff,
don't know, just
or
in terms of the realistic,
the
futuristic,
quality.
realistic, the way it was done, how well it was done, something like that.
Oh,
I
wow.
could be also making it all up, but that's what I thought I heard yesterday. I don't get into the sci-fi world, so it doesn't you know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really get into like specific genres either. I just want something that's good. So
Yeah,
I'll just
sure.
watch the best of everything,
Yeah, good.
and like
That's
that.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Because yeah, I never understood people who like stick to a genre because then you like get into all this crap, but I don't
Right. Lots of crap.
know.
Yep.
And so yeah, so what's interesting is that I think what happens with people is that like I've realized the best art just is basically just telling the truth. So like with ordinary people, it feels like for the first time you had seen a movie that was just telling the truth and that was just like, oh my God, they're actually talking about things that are real.
Yes.
And which never happens, I guess,
Yes.
as the further you go back in time, things are
Yeah.
more fake or something, and they just want to sell things or
Yeah, no, that's
um,
great. That's beautiful. Exactly. Because it felt like this was true for me. This felt real for me. It felt authentic. It felt like we watched people have emotions that you don't necessarily weren't seeing before, and like really the coldness of the mother, or you know what I mean? Just
hmm.
it was really, to me, just so raw, so intense. But I thought it was so. I love Robert Redford as a director. I think he's an excellent director. So I'm a fan. And then that was the one that turned me on to him in the first place. So aside from his acting.
Yeah, and it's weird. I think maybe because like back then it seemed like the only move kind of was the Oscar bait that was like because the only reason those movies would get attention is because like you have like the industry that wants to be artists but they know they have to be part of all these projects that are just made to be sold.
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
then when people actually want something real that's real art and that's not as commercial, then it was the Oscar movies that really got promoted because that's why they have the Oscars um is just the promotion machine to
Mm-hmm.
sell these movies that aren't as commercial.
Right. Right.
And so I always thought that was interesting. Like, but yeah, then I got into the Criterion Collection and all these like, art house movies and everything. And so,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I used to go to the all these art films in LA because there's nothing to
um,
do there. So you just me
um,
and my friend Greg would just go see everything that came out. Everything. And it
yeah.
was amazing. It was my favorite time of movies for me, was just going to only see art films. That's all we did.
Oh, so what else do you remember
Oh my God.
that you saw?
Well, mention one and then I've seen, I mean, again, this is years ago, so,
Like,
but, um,
okay,
well, it's
like in
one
the
of them that,
90s?
sorry,
Like in the 90s?
90s. Uh-huh.
Maybe like David Lynch movies, like
Well, those are not my favorite, but he liked them,
oh,
but I
okay.
don't.
Oh, you don't
No, not
you
so
don't
much.
like the
It was,
darker type stuff?
I don't like dark stuff. I just have so
Oh,
much
okay.
inside. I just can't bear it on the outside.
Oh, interesting.
Oh God. No.
That's my theory about also about the J.D. Salinger Catcher in the Rye is
Hmm.
because when it came out in the 40s, I think that was kind of like the end of the fake times. I think World War II really woke up everybody, and that's why you have like the sex revolution after that. Well, because of the atom bomb, everybody's thinking like, oh my God, we could just die at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do what the fuck we want.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, let's just go fuck. And so
Mm-hmm.
then you have the sex revolution and everything. And so, but JD Salinger and The Catcher in the Rye, that was, I think, kind of the precursor to that. Well, and what's interesting is he had just fought in World War II. And I think being so near to death and just who he was as like a writer who just wanted to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then his book happened to just be one that was telling the truth that caught
Mm-hmm.
on and was promoted
Yeah.
or however it got out.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then everybody was like, oh my God, like this guy's telling the truth. Like nobody does that. What is going on?
Right.
And so
Exactly.
everybody freaked out
Yeah.
that he was really telling it like how he actually felt.
Exactly. It's sort of like
And
for girls, it was "Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret." I mean, it was kind of like,
mm,
because it was people were feeling and thinking the same things, but we didn't know that each
nobody
other
was saying
were.
it.
Nobody, yeah, nobody knew that you weren't, and it kind of made you feel less alone. And the
Yeah.
subtlety of life. I mean, that's the beauty of art films in general. I think it's all about subtlety, that it's the nuances and like the it's all those little things that we don't even as people, as we go around in the world, even acknowledge ourselves. And then when somebody else does, we go, oh my God, yeah, that is what I think, that is what I do, that is, that kind of stuff. And it's so much fun. I mean, I love subtlety like that. I absolutely do. That's my
Right,
favorite.
because I
Yeah.
think it's always about the things that were hard for people to deal with, and then we have like shame about all this stuff.
Mhm.
And so then the shame is what keeps people from talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I think recently the world has realized like everybody thought they were the only person molested, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And but then they realize, oh, like half the world's been molested
A
because it used
fourth.
to be this
Supposedly it's a
secret.
fourth.
Sorry, what?
Supposedly it's one fourth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean
Oh,
supposedly. I mean, I know you're being
that's
funny, I
no,
guess. I don't think it's 50%, but I do think it's definitely, they do
it's a
say it's
big,
one out of four people, they say, have been molested. And that's
yeah.
probably underrepresented though, under.
And I think it all goes back to like just the oppression of sex by conservative culture and religion. Because when you oppress something that's natural, it's going to, um, it's kind of like when you, I guess, squeeze a bottle of toothpaste
Mhm.
and it's meant to go out the hole.
Oh,
The
I see.
main,
I didn't know what the fuck that was. Oh, this is
but
unbelievable. Go
but
on.
but when you
Yes.
oppress the natural
Yes,
hole
yes,
that it's
yes, yes.
supposed to come out of,
Yes.
but you still squeeze it,
Well, it's going to come
it's
out of
gonna,
something. Yeah,
yeah, it's still gonna come out. It's
absolutely.
just gonna come out unnaturally.
100%.
And then that's what molestation is. It's sex happening because life's gonna go on no matter what.
Right. It's also, the other thing is it's not just, sexual repression that causes molestation. It's
Mm,
also any kind of repression. So if somebody's being
yeah.
abused emotionally, they have rage they have not let out because, society is less interested in therapy as they are interested in alcohol and drugs, or just don't talk about it. So repression
Yeah.
entirely, and so that rage, that anger towards somebody is going to come out. So because they have to take their power back in some way, so they take their
Yeah.
power back sexually out on somebody because that's where they
Mhm.
feel like they have the most control.
Yeah.
Anywhere where somebody else is vulnerable, that's where they'll attack. So,
Yeah.
but I just feel like it's a complicated. It's a little bit. It's complicated, but it's also not.
Yeah.
But absolutely, bottom line is any kind of repression. I would call it, as opposed to necessarily oppression, but repress feelings,
Oh,
repression. People are being shoved down. Your sexual, your normal organics way you're supposed to be in the world as human beings. We all have emotions. If
yeah.
those are repressed, it's going to come out somewhere. We all have, sexual desires. If those are repressed, it's going to come out somewhere. You know what I mean? All that stuff. So anyway, just
Wait, so
stretch
what
that
is the
out.
difference, would you say?
Oppression and suppression.
Or
Oppression is
oppression and repression?
so I think so repression or is when something is being shoved down. When somebody's being oppressed, that they're being shoved down by somebody else. So,
Oh,
so I feel like we have control over, repressing feelings, like, not allowing them or not allowing them. But I feel like when we're being oppressed, it's more of it's coming from an outer, somewhere outside of ourselves. That's just my take on it.
yeah,
That's not like something I've did research on, but I have done.
yeah.
I do know about the word um, repressing and suppressing, you know, so which is a shoving down, I think,
So, but then, like, we start out as babies where everything is outer.
oppressed. It's
Yeah.
oppressed, exactly.
So
So,
then I
uh-huh.
guess it's like down the line, we kind of decide what we're going to repress.
That's
Um,
exactly right. I think that's great.
yeah,
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
understand? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's smart. Yep. Yep.
So it's like, right, just what we choose to um express and not express. Like what
Exactly.
you were saying, how well, and then you still didn't want to get like specifics, but how that movie, Ordinary People, just woke you up to the truth, kind of,
Of
maybe.
how I
Like,
felt, but I didn't know
yeah,
what I was feeling until I saw it in front of me, until it was sort of, we when we read something or we watch something, I think that's the beauty of art is that
yeah,
these people are brave enough to express themselves and share it, not just
yeah,
express themselves, but share it. Sharing it is
yeah,
very scary to put it out in the world because when you do that, you do risk losing family, people close to you in your life, whatever, depending on what it is you talk about,
yeah,
um, because you're doing it for a higher purpose. You're doing it for yourself, your path, and for and maybe for the universe as a whole. You know what I mean? As opposed
yeah,
to just trying to please these people that have had power over you or that in your small world, growing up, or whatever it is, So
yeah,
I think not just growing up, but anybody we make them too important or we put it on a pedestal and we're trying to please them still because of childhood reasons that we bring into
yeah,
our newer relationships that will cause us to not share our art oftentimes when we
yeah.
might benefit and the larger whatever society would benefit as well.
Yeah, that's something I realized recently, is that all the things that people don't want to share are all the things they should share the most,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
because that's the stuff, when you're brave enough to share it, that's the stuff that most people are going to relate to and then not feel alone, and that's why they love it.
Yes, and also it sets you
Yeah,
free as a
yeah,
person. So because
yeah.
like you said, shame is a big deal. I used to teach acting and I still do like
Hmm.
here and there, but
Oh, nice.
yeah, and one of the first exercises I've done, like when I taught in London for a while, when I was living there for like 4.5 years, and I taught acting there, and one of the things, the exercises that we did was to um, write down the things you have shame around, and then share this class with the class, sit in front and talk, share it.
Wow.
And to me, because we hide as actors, we hide. We kind of go, and so we feel like we'll only share as much of ourselves as we feel like is required with this character.
Yeah,
But when you can really let go of, because that's all based in fear, a fear of, like, because we have a judgment about a part of ourselves, like I don't like
yeah,
that part of me, I don't like that part of me, and it's our own judgment. Obviously, it comes from some outside places, but if
yeah,
but we take it on ourselves. We don't even know we judge it until we say, well, what do I feel about that, or what do I, think about that.
yeah,
Anyway, so I felt it was really important in order to be a fully expressed, because as an actor you want to really be a fully expressed human being, and then you can choose whether or not you want to you know um, uh, reveal this or reveal that or suppress this, or, as opposed to I can't help it. I can't
Yeah.
help but suppress this, and I'm not going to share that part of me. And I don't, so then all of your characters don't share that part of themselves either.
Oh
So,
yeah.
and everybody's different, right? And I'm
Right.
meaning in the sense that some people are cool with sex and other people are not. Some people love rage, so other people are really afraid of it. Some people don't mind crying, and don't and talking about vulnerability. Other people are like, that's sickening. So in order to be a fully expressed actor who can tap into all parts of themselves, to tap into all different aspects of
Yeah.
other characters, you want to be able to do that. Point is that if you have shame around it, any shame, you will, all your characters will also carry that shame, and so then you'll have
Yeah.
that they'll have that in common, and then you won't really be telling their story. You'll be telling your story, and I think there's a difference.
Yeah, so basically all the best actors are the ones who don't care about judgment and just let everything flow free.
Yeah, I mean, those are the
Yeah.
best actors without a doubt because they're out of judgment, exactly, and so it's a really hard thing to do, to be fully expressed. I mean, as you said, like literally shame is at the bottom of so much of, our ego is our protector, and your ego is like, yeah, good, stay ashamed, let's not anybody judge us, all right? So just don't tell anybody about that
Yeah.
goddamn thing that happened. You just shut up. And so,
Yeah.
and so then you
Yeah.
just live like that. You shove everything down, and then, like you said, like toothpaste, it will come out somewhere, and it's
Yeah.
not going to be nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things I learned, like just really, because I used to be an overthinker anyway, and then with
No, you don't seem like it.
taking edibles during the pandemic, then I really started to think about everything. And that's what I realized, like, about like the ego. So like the ego, we're just trying to survive. So everything comes, you can explain everything that ever happens, all comes down to our ego is just the thing that's trying to make us survive this world and this life.
That's
Because
right.
everything is just about the continuation of life and the survival,
Survival.
and it all comes down to that. So like for judgment, it's like about, oh, if somebody doesn't like me and they judge me and they think I'm a piece of shit, then nobody's gonna fuck me, and then I can't reproduce and have more life. It
Hmm.
all comes down to that survival and continuation
Hmm.
of life, right?
Yeah.
And so, um, and then what I realized about judgment is that we're really not like, we think we're afraid of other people's judgment,
Hmm.
but I don't really think it's about other people. We're afraid that they're just going to, what's the word? Uh,
Abandon? No.
well, we're afraid that other people's judgment is just, um like, reassuring the judgments we already have on ourselves. So
Hmm.
we're just afraid that they're going to
Yeah.
legitimize
Right. They'll be
judgment
right.
that we
That
already
you were
feel.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That you were right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say I'd say that there's truth to everything you just said, and I was just going to add something to it, which is, so the ego, as you said, is it's our protector, and it's survival. The only thing is, though, is that we're you're when you were a kid, you needed that because you didn't have agency over your own body, your own,
Yeah.
your own actions, and you had your agency over your own mind, but not completely, because
You didn't
I
know
felt like it.
shit.
Because I was really thinking, this is what I came up with the other day, which I think is
Oh.
very true. Because I do this whole bit about family should be illegal, and I feel like,
Oh.
but yeah, but I also think that I feel like no matter how subtle or how extreme, that every family that anybody grows up into is almost like a mini cult, because you're told what to think, what to believe, what's okay to feel, what's not okay to feel, what path you should take, what's right, what's wrong. You're told that by one or two people, or depending on how many, you know what I mean? And then everybody, there's most people go along, out of survival and protection, the ego. So all your brothers and sisters will also go along. So now you're just like a mini cult,
Hmm.
and then you go out in the world and you're like sharing what you learned, espousing all this wisdom, and other people are like, "What are you talking about?" Like, wow, 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 wow,
Yeah.
wow, and
Yeah.
so, but I wanted to say that what you were just saying, though, about Yeah, so that was back then. We didn't have, as I say, agency. We didn't have power. But today, as adults, we are living where we want to live. We are surrounding ourselves with, typically, with people we want to surround ourselves. We're living the life we want to live. So we don't have to have our ego be in charge anymore. It
Mm,
isn't necessary. They say that, when you're a child, sure, it's out of, to survival. And of course, back in the days of caveman days, you really needed it to be constantly aware of being attacked, because you were always under threat, because animals were obviously, all over, and you were much weaker. And so but now we're not surrounded by the
yeah.
wild kingdom. You know what I mean? We're like, and most people, and we're not just out to like kill somebody to eat their food. We found more civilized ways of functioning in the world. So you're actually safe. So the ego, all I'm trying to say is that it could be put to bed.
Yeah.
Our ego really needs to take a nap, because if you watch what Will Smith did on that stage, went up and going, that's ego,
Yeah.
you know, and his ego was being threatened, and it was the whole thing.
Oh, just okay, and go.
So yeah, so the whole thing with Will Smith, his ego was in charge, and of course he's being, controlled by his wife. What's her name?
Jada.
Jada Pinkett. So, so I guess that's what I found out later, that she was pulling the strings of that relationship, pretty much. But it's a toxic relationship. I mean, we all have them, But the
Mm,
point is that that's what. Whenever you see somebody just, when rage takes over, when anger wins, that's all ego. And when the ego is in charge, there's no emotion, there's no vulnerability left, there's no heart, there's no actual thought process. There's no consciousness. It's all
yeah.
ego. So the ego is a reactor, and that's all it does. It just runs and protects, and it doesn't just protect you itself, but it protects everybody around them. So you've seen people, and that's what, like, bravado is. This masculine energy trying to, I'm gonna go protect my woman. That whole
Yeah.
thing. I'm gonna go to war. I'm gonna protect my gal. That whole
Yeah.
thing. I wrote a show actually called "You Got to Be Should in Me: Conversations with My Ego, Carl." And
Shouldn't?
shouldn't, as
Oh,
like, should, you
yeah.
got to be shouldn't me,
Yeah.
conversations with my ego, Carl, because we should ourselves to death. That's what we do. I should do this, I should do that, I should do this, you should. And should, I believe, is just all ego trying to stay in control, stay in power, and doing
Yeah.
what you should do as opposed to what actually feels good. It's a big difference.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because
So
it's this pretense of, oh, I should do this because whatever, not because I really want to do it.
exactly.
And we should just do things we want to do.
In reality, that's how I believe we're meant to live. And I didn't learn it until, 100 years later, but it's worth knowing now for sure, which is that we're supposed to be happy. We're supposed
Yeah.
to have fun, and we're supposed to, like, listen to our bodies, because it's infinite wisdom in our body, and our brain is basically a function of the ego. They're best friends. They work together perfectly.
Yeah.
They work to justify why the other one's right. That's basically what they do. And the brain, I always say, is like a computer. It only just operates based on information it was put in, and that's all it
Mhm.
has. Whereas the body is like infinite wisdom. It's your
It has all
source.
the
It
information,
has all
right?
the information.
Our pineal gland. Yeah.
What's that?
Our pineal gland.
Okay, sure. And
No, that is. I really think
no, I'm
has
sure
all
you're
the
right. I don't know what
information.
that. I've never heard it. I don't know anything.
Oh,
But
it's
yeah.
the third eye.
Oh,
It's why you get all these
yes.
crazy cool thoughts when you get high,
Yeah.
because your third eye's opening.
I see. Well, I don't need drugs for my third eye to open, thank
That's
God.
good. Yeah.
No, it's good
Good.
for me, but I just don't need any help.
Oh,
But
that's
anyway,
good. Yeah.
yeah. So, but that's why I always say, like, why do people have to take mushrooms to, like? Because I feel like I'm always like kind of listening to that, or probably more often than
Oh,
not,
that's good.
listening to my inner being, my wisest, highest self. And
Yeah.
I write every morning, and I ask questions of myself, and sort of try to get information that is not just up in here, and the should and the worry and the fear.
Yeah.
That's not really how we have to sort of trust the universe a little bit more than that. But anyway, and
Yeah. So one of the things I realized, it all seems to come back to doing edibles during the pandemic. Was like, okay, so like,
I like how you think you're just saying during the pandemic. Meanwhile,
yeah.
you're like 24/7. No, I'm just kidding. I don't really know. I'm just judging, which is my ego. No, I'm kidding. Go on.
Right. No, yeah, no, it's cool. Um, and so like, you know how when we grew up and like you just saw all these Barbies with their hair cut off and like all these Barbies like in like with just the head and the legs. And do you remember, like, well, just when you grow up in general, you
Like,
see
who's doing that? You mean like, is it on
just
TV or your
everybody is
friend?
wrecking their toys. Everybody's destroying their toys, right?
Oh,
So maybe that has something to
sorry.
do with like, so like a kid, like what you said, we don't have agency. And plus, a kid is just operating animalistically, right? A kid, as children, I think we do everything for a reason, but we
Mhm.
just don't know what the reason is because
Exactly.
we're just acting on instinct
Beautiful.
and not thinking about it,
That's
right?
right. Hmm.
And so, and that's, I guess, why also maybe why people rage and then that takes over, just because it's that animal instinct in us. It's not thinking, it's just reacting. And
It's
but
yeah,
and
it's fear based. It's fear based.
yeah,
So
that
yeah,
too. It's
that's what it
about
is. It's a protector. It's like,
fear
oops, I'm being
controls.
threatened. My woman's being threatened, or my family's being threatened. That's why I always use the example of like when we see a scary movie, right? And you know how you like see a scary movie and like sometimes in the audiences people will be screaming at the woman because it's always a woman about to get raped,
Right.
and she's naked in the shower and she's also blind, but that's anyway. But you know
I
so we're
know.
all like, woman, you big idiot, like we're screaming at and that's the ego protecting, you know and it's
Yeah.
not just protecting her. I mean, like it's sort of like it's protecting our like women in general. It's like, you fucking idiot, you're making us look bad, you stupid whore. Do you know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
anger that comes out in the
Yeah.
protector. So it doesn't come out good. Again, as I say, ego is remiss of all subtlety, vulnerability, heart, all
Yeah.
that stuff. So that's missing. So we just like, well, we lose our shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, and I think that's why a lot of it just seems like the horror genre in general doesn't attract very intellectual filmmakers. They're just making these things to be sold,
Yes.
and it's just
100%. Yeah.
it's just these scenes of terror.
It's
and
horrible.
and I mean, that's really being controlled by fear, because you just want to sell something, and so you literally appeal to everybody's animal instinct fear that they want to tickle, and that's the only reason why you watch a crappy horror movie,
Absolutely right.
you know
Yep.
and so and then especially when it's women being the victim. Well, that's because that's just an extension of the sexism that's every day,
Yep.
like
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. And
Yep.
so with the Barbie, what I realized, why all these Barbie parts were thrown everywhere in every friend I went to go play with.
Oh,
um
you're talking about when you were really little. I was like, I don't know what you're
oh,
talking about.
oh, that's
I'm like,
hilarious.
where are you going? I'm like, what
I
kind of
think I'm
what are
like
you watching
in
on
my
the telly?
30s, and I'm like, everybody's tearing apart Barbies. I'm like, yeah, it sounds like a Wooster Group play or something. No, no, yeah. When I was growing up, all my friends, they cut off the hair of the Barbie, they throw the head over there. And what I realized what that is, I think, is that like our animal instinct was taking effect and just doing its thing. But what was really going on subconsciously, I think, was that like kids are like, "Oh, Barbie, you're messing with my sense of um, self-acceptance and my beauty standards, and how dare you say that I'm not good enough? And oh, I know, I'm gonna cut off your hair so I can relate to you on a better level, on a more
Interesting.
grounded level."
Yeah, I never heard about this. I must have missed those parties.
Well, I
But
think that, well, I mean, just
I
kids
mean,
at
I understand
point.
because you were growing up
See,
at a different time than me, and this was sort of, we're talking about
okay.
agency. Kids were kind of going, "Hey, I don't have to accept this. I don't have to accept that." But where when I grew up, it was like you didn't even know you weren't supposed to like. But I mean, I was very outspoken as a kid, though. My dad said, "Oh, you're such a rebel. You're just a rebel." Just
Oh.
like me, you're a rebel. And I was like, a rebel? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, just because I have my own opinions, that makes me a fucking rebel?
See, isn't that crazy? Where it's like the standard, the bar, where the bar is.
That's
It's
right.
so low. The
It's
bar is so
ridiculous.
low. Yeah.
So I'm talking, so I was this talk about, he even called himself God. He actually,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
like Trump.
It's fine, it's fine. But the thing is,
Remember when Trump did that? But anyway,
what?
Trump said all the bad shit, but
Yeah,
Trump said
well,
he was the chosen one, and
no, I know. Well, I mean, they're
yeah,
similar,
yeah,
just so you know. But anyway, moving on. Anyway, the thing, what we're talking about,
yeah,
which is the dolls thing, and we grew up at
yeah.
different times, is that, yeah, so yeah, no, I mean, I had Barbie Airplane, and I loved
Oh,
it. Are you kidding me?
oh, like
I had the whole fucking
she
airplane.
was a flight attendant.
Yes.
Oh,
And but I didn't give a fuck. I just liked stuff like, like I was like, oh my God, I get Barbie and it's big, because to me, the bigger the gift, like that meant that, like I existed, So I was like,
oh.
ooh, I got Barbie airplane,
You were respected more as a child, the bigger the gift.
I guess, or
Oh,
yeah, like that was a sign of like love. So I mean,
oh yeah.
that was the only one I can recall, but still, I remember I got a Patty Playful doll, which became my whole world for a while. I was just like, hey, got Patty.
So are you
But
saying that you didn't destroy your dolls?
I did not. I was so grateful,
Okay.
but no, because let me tell you what I did do though. I'll do it real quickly. Just tell you
Okay.
what I used to
Oh,
do is
this is good.
I had dolls that were from all over the world. My parents, when they went away, I got dolls, and my grandparents, my mom's grandmother, when they went to Portugal. So I got these beautiful dolls. I had like maybe there was like 12 or 15 of them, and I loved them. And so I used to lay them on the bed and then pretend like I was the mother, and I would, go outside and I would unlock it with like a bobby pin, like, and I'd make all the noises of like unlocking the door of my bedroom. But before I got in there, I'd be like, "Stop screaming, kids! Calm down! You're being ridiculous. Just stop fighting!" But it was like I can't remember the voice, but I was screaming at them. Meanwhile, they're just dolls, like laying up on a bed like this, and I'm going, "Stop fighting! Stop it!" Like.
Is it
So,
because your mom would yell at you or what?
of course, but I
Oh,
didn't
right,
know that, so it was just
right.
constantly yelling at them. Meanwhile, they're not doing anything. They're just, what I mean? These poor bitches, just laying up on a bed, and I would just, so like that's how I interacted with my dolls.
Wow.
Now, yeah, so those were the dolls that I had throughout my whole life. I don't know what happened to them in this last move. I've had them my
Oh,
whole life, and now they're gone.
in
Gone.
storage or something or?
I don't have a storage anymore. And my friend who had the last of my stuff, she said she doesn't have them, and I just don't have them.
Oh, so she had them and now she probably got rid of it. She didn't want to store your crap. So do you think that's what happened? She just got rid of your crap and
Oh
didn't
my
tell you?
God, but that would have been before we stopped talking. So
Oh, so maybe oh that's why then. That's you stopped talking and so she got rid of your
no,
crap.
but I'm saying that she had gotten rid of
Oh,
them before that because I said they're not there, and meanwhile she had a lot of my other stuff that she has and can use, but she couldn't use those. Maybe you're right. Maybe she just
is
dumped them.
is that why you
Not
stopped
be.
talking because she dumped your
No,
stuff?
no,
Oh,
because wackadoos.
okay. I know, isn't that funny how like you can be friends with somebody and then it's kind of like a relationship where slowly you realize like, oh, they're a little nuts. And so then you have to just distance yourself because you don't want to like, I guess, I don't know, think of yourself as a person who has a friend of because it goes back to the ego and survival. Oh,
Mhm.
I might not survive if I'm friends with this crazy person, right?
Well, Yeah, we all do have to protect ourselves from toxic energy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
people put stuff on you. I have expectations of you that you can't fulfill, and they blame you
Yeah.
for whatever they're not fulfilling. And then
I
next thing you know,
know.
you've got like several lives you're supposed to be taking care of, and meanwhile, you're just a poor bitch with a who has to put an apron on to make $1. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I
wait,
know.
what? What do
Yeah.
I? What was I supposed to do? You know, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
intense. So it is important to just like that's why it always comes down to, I mean, everything in life. How does this make me feel?
Yeah.
How does this make me feel? If you feel, a resistance to something, there's a reason for it. Look into it, And like you said before, is like we don't always know why we feel a certain way. Like as a kid, you were saying you don't know why, but you had, you were like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You didn't know
Gonna
why you wanted to do
manifest
that, but that was
something.
the truth of you, and that was
Yeah.
right, as opposed to the brain coming in and going, nope, now hang on now. You know what I mean? We didn't do that as kids. The kids, you were like your truest self, and that's why they always say like you want to get in touch with that kid inside you. You want to be kind to that kid inside you. You want to be reparent that kid inside you, and also then be in touch with it so that you have it can be that free spirit that you once were, that when you become an adult all these things get put up on top of you and you feel like I don't have a choice, this is how I gotta be, god damn it, and
Yeah.
that's really fun, isn't it? So but you really,
Where we let the fear control us, right?
yeah, totally. Fear of not having enough money, fear of not having love, fear of not being able to live where you want to live, fear of not being able to think that you can't do what you want to do. We
Yeah.
really can do it, and it's the people who know that and get that are the get there first.
Are the successful
They
people.
are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you're not going to get there, but the more you keep believing, it is about believing, visualizing what you want, believing that you're allowed to have it. And again, it's allowing, it's about allowing. And it's not easy. It is not
Yeah.
easy. Because once you've been trained in a certain way, it's really hard to let it go. But you got to
I
do it.
know that's what I was thinking of. Cause like when you think about it, cause like you said, or like I was saying, like with right, the people who are successful know not to let fear, because the irony is then when you don't let fear control you, that's when you are free to succeed.
Yep,
You because it's kind of like we think of it as like a risk. The greater the risk, the greater the reward.
that's right. And
And
it's
so when
true.
you take the risk away from fear, then
Hmm.
you're going to get rewarded.
You
And
will.
so
Yes.
and so but what's complicated about it is that even though you could be a successful person, it doesn't mean one day you're not going to slap somebody at the Oscars, right?
Well, right.
And
Now,
then let go back to that fear thing,
yeah. Well, exactly.
it's
So that every
compartmentalized in a different subject
right.
or whatever.
So
Yeah.
this is the deal. So this is how we're sort of built, and we're just talking, just kind of to finish that whole thing about the ego
Yeah.
and why that happens is that when you, let's say you're a little kid, right? We're born perfect. We're just like perfect beings, spirit beings. Everything's grand, right?
Yeah.
But then even sometimes even in the womb, something might happen that causes something that's traumatic, right? Because you don't have control. When something happens and you don't have control over it, that's a traumatic feeling, right?
The
And so
mother's
then you have,
drinking. Yeah.
and you, what's that?
The mother could be drinking, right?
Exactly. It could be any, it could be all sorts of stuff, right? She could have gotten hurt. She could have been in fear herself. All sorts of stuff could have happened, right? So, so then the ego, the protector, jumps up to protect you, and we make an unconscious decision. We don't even remember making it, but we make it like an unconscious decision. I'm never going to let that happen to me again, or I'm never going to. Or if it happens like out of the womb and something bad happens, you make an unconscious, like let's say the father's violent. Let's just throw that out there just for fun, just for fun. And so that and then the little kid sees that, observes that, experiences that, and says, "I'm never going to be like that." Whenever we make that unconscious decision, "I'm never going to be like that," that's like wall number one going up. That's shove down number one, meaning that's part of you because we're all the same. We all have the same emotions, the
Yeah.
same,
Universal experience.
yeah, everything. We all have same traits, right? So we have
Yeah.
all these things the same. We're born with all the same. But when something happens, we say, "No, I'm never going to be like that." So then you're shoving down that part of you. And what we do then is we go run in the other direction, the total opposite direction. So that's the extreme. So I'm never going to be
Overcorrect.
like that. I'm going to shove that down. I'm going to shove down anger because I'm never going to be an angry father.
Yeah.
Let's just use that, right? I'm going to go in the other direction. I'm going to be nice no matter what. So then what happens is whenever we do anything in the extreme, we do it at the expense of self, right? So it's like,
Overcorrect. Yep.
it's like at the expense of me, I'm not going to be like that, right? So then you become like this doormat, this sort of person that doesn't make waves, doesn't really say how they feel, doesn't stand up for themselves, doesn't stand up for anybody else, doesn't, and so then that's in the extreme. So then you've shoved down that part of yourself. So you shove down that part of yourself and you're efforting to be more like that other opposite. But the thing is that now you're an effort. So that's exhausting. It's exhausting to shove part of you down, and it's exhausting to effort to be something that you already are.
Yeah.
So in terms of just getting back to what you were saying about like Will Smith and how he got successful, but then he ends up erupting over here, is that he was in the extreme. So a lot of times when people get successful pretty quickly, it's because they're efforting to not be a certain way. He might have said at a very young age, I'm never going to be like that, meaning I'm never going to be poor, or I'm never going to be unsuccessful. I'm never going to be a loser.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they effort in the total opposite direction to not be a loser.
Yeah.
And so, and they'll do it no matter what. They'll do it at the expense of self. They'll do it at the expense of other people, but they're going to do it.
And campaign for an Oscar, right?
What's that?
And campaign for an Oscar, right?
Exactly.
Which is ridiculous.
Right? I didn't know he did that.
Well, I mean, everybody has.
Everybody does it, but that's what you ended up doing. Okay, great. And then now he's in this place, and he's in that place of deserving. That's right. I worked my ass off for it, and now you're mad at everybody because you were the one who worked really fucking hard for it, yeah. And I fucking deserve it. God damn it. You know what I mean? And you're a fucking, if you would have worked that hard, maybe you would have gotten it, but because you didn't. Anyway, I'm over here now. Yeah. And then while you're in that energy, which is all ego, you're in that I deserve this, and I'm allowed, and I can, and it's because, and then you're angry at everybody else who might have ever stopped you along the way, because, and the whole thing is because you're in all that, you had done all that efforting, and so efforting causes this like high intensity justification, like you fucked me up. I mean, remember, just for example, when what's her fucking name? That won the Oscar. It was the Oscar or the maybe Emmy. Allie. What's her name? She worked with John Travolta. She's a Scientologist.
Yeah, Christy Alley.
Christy Alley. There it is. So Christy Alley, when she won her, I don't know, was it an Emmy or Academy Award?
Emmy, yeah.
Emmy. Yeah, because I don't think Look Who's Talking 2 would have brought her Academy Award.
A Golden Globe or an Emmy, yeah.
Yeah, but she was up there, and she said, "This is to show all of you who fucked me over in high school or whatever it was, I'll show you." Wow. And again, she used this moment as a moment of retaliation, and it came from anger. Her success came out of her anger, and a lot of people's success comes out of their anger, out of the I'm never gonna, and I'm gonna show you, as opposed to what makes you feel good.
Yeah, their career is a payback.
Oh, beautiful. Perfectly said. Exactly. My career, you seeing me on this camera, on this big screen, is a payback, god damn it.
I know, it's crazy, right? So it's like your whole being becomes this whole other thing where it's like, well, you're forgetting about your other story,
exactly,
your other life, because you've let your revenge take over your life.
Totally.
And it's crazy. Yeah.
So whatever you focus on, obviously, is what you create, right? So whether it's negative or positive, regardless of reasons, that is what we end up creating for ourselves. So now what I'm trying to do is focus on I don't know, but I'm going to try to focus on some other stuff. Okay. God, I've got to think about it, I guess, because I'm focusing on too many things, and I'm sure I'll create none.
I know. I saw your website. You have a lot on your website, yeah.
Well, I'm 100, so that, of course, eventually some things add up.
Yeah.
But I think, I want to make my TV show. That's my thing. Nice. It's called Unprepared for Life. You might have saw that on there. There's a little blurb about it, and the animated opening for it is on my website.
I'll check it out.
It's called Unprepared for Life. So who better to have this conversation with you than somebody who hasn't done anything?
No, I think, I mean, right, we have to start somewhere, so I
Oh,
just
no, no. It's I think,
but
people would say, "Oh, Cynthia, you've had success." I really have very few successes personally, but I mean, and other people might thought, "Oh, that's a huge. You've done tons of stuff." This is all it's all objective, I
perspective.
guess.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah, perspective. But if you haven't reached your own goals, then it feels like you haven't done it. Do you know what I mean? You haven't.
Right, that's
So
the
I,
your perspective, right.
yeah, from my perspective, because I haven't, because I thought I was going to be like a movie star by the time I was like 32. I was going to be doing, articles in magazines, being interviewed,
Yeah.
Um, I thought, and then there were other times you thought you would have like you have kids, but also a husband and kids. None of that has happened. So I mean, I've had, I've been on podcasts on a Saturday at noon, but but um,
Right, right,
but
right.
but but it's also okay. Like sometimes when I think about like the life I've had a lot of really shitty jobs, and my comedy came out of it. My TV
Mhm.
series that I'm writing and wrote the pilot for and is being shopped around
Right.
now, which is a
It became
successful
your
thing.
content. Yeah.
Yeah, it became content, and I realized initially it was a movie, and then but I was just like it wasn't ready, and I pulled it from the castings actually. This is a long time ago
Oh,
because it was like I was like no, 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 it's not ready, and I got really scared, because I was like because they say with movies it's like if you once you put it out there, like you can't you can do right, you're
right.
supposed to blah 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 too, but you can't
Yeah.
remake that movie, and so I got really scared anyway. So then it was like I realized that my life is so long and I'm still figuring it out. I'm still this is my research. I was still in research of it, and I finally got through happy enough to get to the other side of that pain, which was my research, to be able to tell the story. And it was so hard though, I got to tell you, because I'd worked on it for so many years, but it was so hard to finally finish it and into a place where somebody got actually was interested in it and is shopping
Oh,
it around to bigger people. But
nice.
yeah, but it was because I needed the confidence to know that I could do this. Because the other
Yeah.
voices, who the fuck do you think you are? That's the ego.
Wow, that's actually brave because I'm thinking like if I was ready to like make something, put something out, I would maybe let fear control me and like, oh, maybe it's not ready, but okay, but I have the chance to do it, so let's just do it.
Hmm.
But you were like, well, no, like I would rather not do it if it's not ready. I want it to be ready, so
Yeah,
I'll just pull it
yeah,
and get it ready
yeah,
and try to hopefully get success later with it.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that was brave. You didn't let
Um,
fear control you.
right. I think, and it's funny. I heard something the other day that I thought was so great. This one, I listened to Esther Hicks. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and I
I
think
do. I listen too. Yeah,
yeah, and I think it's great. I really do.
yeah,
And I
it
think it's
is.
really wise. I've had like a friend of mine get me in touch with my guides, my personal guides, like over pandemic actually during that time. And it was
Yeah,
so interesting. And basically all the things that Abraham, who speaks through her guide, who answers questions for other people, this
yeah,
is just for other people's,
it's
um,
amazing. Yeah,
yeah. They said the same exact things as my guides were saying and using the same language, and I went, this is real because it was the first time in my life, and this is true, that I ever felt good. Like I actually started to realize that I was allowed to feel good, that we were supposed to feel good, that you're supposed to be
yeah,
happy.
yeah,
And I started to like really kind of gear myself towards feeling good. And that was the first time in my life. Like before, I didn't even realize it was necessary. I think the only time I'd ever actually felt good was when I did ecstasy in high school, in college. And
uh,
I was like, oh, I didn't even know I wasn't feeling good until I felt good.
yeah.
Ah.
Right. So
But yeah, what was I going to say? Just a
recently, or with the show, or what do
well,
you mean?
well,
You felt
well,
good
wait,
about what?
wait. So I was talking about Esther Hicks, and one
Yeah.
thing she said the other day, which I loved. Somebody was up there asking her. They said, I started, is it bad because I started to write this thing, or I started this project and I didn't
Mm.
finish it, and then I started this other thing and I didn't and then Esther
Oh, right.
said, Abraham said, it's okay. Like, you weren't supposed to, those projects were not ready to be finished at that time. They were ready to be started. They weren't ready to be finished.
That's my
Like,
life story.
right. Well, no, but that's the point, is you're still young, and the thing is,
Yeah, yeah,
we have to be kinder to ourselves.
yeah, yeah,
All we do is judge ourselves for not being like so and so and such,
yeah,
and but really our paths are all different. And so I wasn't supposed to get the movie out at that time, because guess what? I wasn't ready for that. And
yeah.
also, what I've written now is so much more complicated and so much more, so
Beautiful.
funnier, and nobody's ever done what I've written, and
Nice.
it's really kind of cool. So it wasn't, and also it allows me, obviously, episodes in order to tell the whole story.
Yeah,
I've lived this shitty life, so I could tell the goddamn story. Like,
yeah,
that's, but I like what I said to you, because I've never necessarily said it before, which was, is that I needed to get to the other side of happy, or maybe the other
yeah,
side of sad, and miserable,
yeah,
and also, and that pandemic helped me to finish my script during that time, because I wasn't feeling the pressures of having to get out there and do stand up every night, and otherwise I'm a loser, right?
yeah.
And or whatever it was. So I got to totally focus on it. I completed it. I got it to a place where it was, by other people reading it, said, this is great. Somebody called me on the day of because I took a couple classes on Zoom. During my Zoom class, it was so awful though. Talk about like insecurity and fear. I was just like, I seriously, I was just like choking myself, I was just like, but the good thing
Yeah.
is you can hide your camera, right? So other people are like asking questions like, so when you do, what is, and I'm like, you know, I'm curled up on the couch, like, and then I come back, to listen, because it was so hard for me
Because you're
I
talking about your life. Yeah.
yes, but I didn't believe in myself.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't believe I could do it, or that it mattered.
yeah,
And so it was like, and I'm talking about my life. So now you're talking about like layers of pain, and also fear,
yeah.
doubt, anyway. So all that was like, and it all culminated, and seriously, but
Wow.
thank God for Zoom, because like there wasn't like you were sitting in a live class where people are like, what the hell's going on with her? Are you nuts? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, maybe that's why people opened up over the pandemic, because the Zoom was like the barrier where they felt safe.
well, yeah, and also you can also hide your camera, mute your fucking,
Yeah. You have
your
control. Yeah.
yeah. So mute yourself. So you do that, and you can still, I was still listening, but I was also living my own life without being watched. And I was learning without being watched, or judging or comparing myself to other people, because at the end of the day I was like, I'm going to take care of me. I got to take care of me. I got to take care of me. And I think that's what
Yeah.
the pandemic did with a lot of people, is
Yeah.
it was an opportunity for the ones that survived. It was an
Yeah.
opportunity for them to take care of me, take care of me, take care of me, because I don't, you're having the pressures of society. I was sort of looking at it like, our whole life we were like, or me, but a lot of us, like in a rowboat, and there's that big ship, and there are people on the ship, good night, having a great time. Bon voyage, whatever. They're just like having a great time. And you're on the rowboat, and you're being thrown around, but you're detached from like the thing you want, and it's getting farther and farther away from you. And that's what life feels like a lot of times when you're
Well,
striving for.
Instagram.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's supposedly life,
Yeah.
You're striving for somebody's picture, out in the blah blah. And we all know, even when we're in beautiful fucking nature, right? And you're still with yourself, and you're still in your lack, and you're still in your fear, and you're still in your want, So it's, that picture is a moment of maybe, acknowledgement of what you do have, But then the other 99% of that day is just like you going, God damn it! It's fucking windy out here. Sucks.
Exactly.
You
And
know?
okay, so like, yeah, with the pandemic, I realized it's a catalyst for evolution. And so it's kind of like
That's right.
all the things that you are now have content for your amazing script. If you didn't live the shitty life, you wouldn't have the amazing script.
That's right.
So is it really a shitty life if it gave you this beautiful gem of a script?
No, it isn't. And because when I look back on all those
Catalyst
horrible
for
jobs that I
evolution.
was so
Yeah.
miserable in, I was like,
Yeah.
the oldest person working at Starbucks. I was the oldest person working at a yogurt shop. I was like, a waitress for
Yeah.
17 years on and off. I got physically abused by a manager.
Oh my
Followed
God.
around and watched like eyeballed. He just eyeballed
Oh,
me.
I thought he was me tooing you.
No. He kicked me. He physically hurt me. Actually, he didn't me too me. Nobody was that interested. They wanted to kill me. No fingering on this side. He a
Oh
boot up
my
my ass in front of
God.
all the customers. He punched me in my kidneys and I buckled. My legs I just like dropped. I've had a lot of physical, but then again, because of childhood, whatever's familiar, right? You're going to keep drawing it in until you address it. You're going to match your childhood experiences until you address it. And that's just how it goes. And that's why whenever bad things happen to us in our present day, there are opportunities for us to address things. That you can look at them as gifts, not as something bad that happened to me and I'm a victim again. No, this is another opportunity for you to address, look at, feel, acknowledge, and move on and move forward. But when you don't acknowledge it, it still stays in your unconscious. And when everything's in your unconscious, it controls you.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice over it. You just sort of like you'll go up there and slap somebody because you have unconscious shit that you have not acknowledged. And that's what happens when people are so anxious to make it that they will end up doing really bad behavior or hurting themselves because they didn't address the stuff that matters because they were so like I have to make it no matter what I got to do it now, and then everything else falls to the wayside. And so my dream was always to be successful without being sickening.
Okay, that's awesome. Right, and that takes time. Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah. Because it made me realize that so you're working on this script to make it perfect, knowing that that's important, which then makes me think of people like Stanley Kubrick. That's why so many years in between each movie, he wanted it perfect, right? And so and then we see all these other people going by successful with their already made things, but then even though they're having success and making things, it's like, how much is it really contributing? Because they if they made it already, well, then it's kind of unfinished. If they had to get it out right away and they're young and whatever, how much did they really contribute to the conversation if they didn't really live that long to make it?
Well, there's different. I think we all have different purposes on this planet. Some people's purpose is contrast, and you know what contrast is, which is knowing what you don't want, right? That's what contrast is. It shows you, oh, I don't want that.
Right. Some people's dating profiles are a list of what they don't want.
Right. But yeah, there's that too. Exactly. So when we have, so sometimes somebody's life is actually contrast for everybody else in order to evolve the planet. So I'll use Trump as an example. This is not a good person. This is not a positive, good feeling, human being. But he was put there to address what was already there in society, and it needed to be that big to cause that big a splash of poo, like a giant poo. It plopped and it's caused a big splash. Everybody got wet. Everybody was filled with shit. And now we have to deal with it, meaning that he unearthed what was already there, right? So that was a gift. But also, we have to, because we have to acknowledge people's feelings, whether we agree with them or not, or whether we feel like they have a right to them or not, or we feel like that doesn't make sense, you need therapy, that type of stuff. It still exists. And as a society, we are family. And as a family, we have to acknowledge and get out of judgment and literally listen.
It's
Just
gonna
listen.
cut out soon, but this
Yeah.
is amazing, and I think um if it when it cuts out, I want to come back again
Okay. Just to
and
close
then
it
we'll
up.
kind of
Yeah.
wrap up
Okay. Sure.
and finish everything.
Okay.
But yeah, that's perfect. That's what American Horror Story, that season about Trump, was about. One, two, three. Okay, welcome back to Rhett Sever's rickety old free Zoom podcast. Okay. So basically, what I was saying was right. You nailed it with Trump, because that's what, again, I realized over the pandemic with unedibles was
Yes.
that right. Trump was supposed to happen because he was our catalyst for evolution.
That's right.
The irony is that under Hillary, who we all wanted, the irony is that things wouldn't have evolved as much as they have
Hmm.
under like the same, whatever,
That's
uh,
right.
like boring thing we were doing was just
Right.
like the same old what do they call it, like getting in the rut. We were in this rut, so Trump, even though Trump was bad, he got us out of this rut of complacency that people were, which is how we got Trump, is in the rut of complacency, because people were just sick of the same old crap. And so like Michael Moore said, Trump was the Molotov cocktail that
Hmm.
the voters threw in just to mix things up. Just
Yep.
had no other, or people thought they had no other choice, because Hillary was just this
Hmm.
the same old, and they didn't want that. So
Right.
even though Trump might have been worse, and they maybe them knowing a lot, right? A lot of people voted for Trump embarrassingly.
Yep.
They won't admit it.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who were like, well, I just wanted something different,
Right. Right.
despite, right, I know he's racist, but
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was critical, like you were saying, to the evolution of the universe. Like literally, we're all put here to evolve, to evolve
Yeah.
the planet, to evolve the world, all of it, the universe. So, and so that was his purpose. And again, the contrast is not a good time. It's not fun.
Yeah.
Nobody likes it. Nobody
Yeah.
likes not, like experiencing things that don't feel good, that make them have to look at things that they don't want to have to deal with. But the beauty of the pandemic was, and even though again it was so full of difficulty and bad feelings and fear and all that kind of stuff and awful things happening, it was an opportunity for people to address other things that were being overlooked constantly. Because first of all, America is the biggest sinner.
Suppressed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the biggest sinner of trying to be successful at any cost.
Mm.
And so when people are efforting to be successful, it becomes at the expense of dealing with emotional issues, with societal, whatever issues, in everything. So, just like literally, it put the spotlight, as we know, like on our healthcare system. It put the spotlight on racism. It put the spotlight
Yeah.
on inequality. It put the spotlight on how the police were treating, people of color. So, and also, and then of course
Sexism. Yeah.
sexism, absolutely,
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah.
these are all things that people deal with on a daily basis, but we do it in a way of like, oh yeah, well that's how it goes. We start to accept it. We start to make it normal.
I call that historical Stockholm syndrome.
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
exactly. And it is not normal. And we needed a wake up call, and we needed time to focus on it. So this was a big, massive shift that was actually, I watched this documentary about this woman who is I know we're going on for ages, but it was
That's
super
okay.
interesting. This
Yeah.
woman, her name was Barbara something. I can't remember, but I'll send it to you. But she saw into the future. So she was a scientific. What is somebody who sees into the future?
Psychic? Sorry.
Psychic. So she was like
Oh.
science. She was science based, but a psychic.
Oh,
But
wow.
she had a different word for it. But really interesting woman, and she had predicted it. And I happened to catch a documentary that had been out there for a while. I just clicked on it,
Oh,
and
nice.
she was predicting what was happening right now. That there was going to be an illness, that people were going to get very sick, that there was going to
Oh,
be,
wow.
um, I mean, it was unbelievable. I'll send it to you. I just
Oh,
only pulled out that one clip,
please.
but I found it was profound, and
Wow.
because I do believe that everything happens for a reason. Now, it
Yes,
doesn't
yes.
mean that you caused it, right? It means that I always say things happen for you, not because of you. It doesn't
Mm,
mean you did something wrong.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Because
it's
we were all
happening.
started off as innocent babies, right?
Exactly. And even as adults, though, things are not happening because of you. They're happening for you. Meaning, if you look at life and your experiences as opportunities to grow and change and learn and have a positive effect on a healing effect on yourself and others, then these are opportunities. Or you can look at it as, oh, woe is me. I fucked up. This happened because oh yeah, because I'm a fucking. That's right. Just yeah, give me everything. You have friends like that who'd say that. Yeah, yeah. Go. What else am I gonna have to deal with? You know what I mean? And if you lived in life like that as the victim, well, a victim, I always say, is somebody who doesn't feel like they have power over their own life. That's a victim. So I don't use it in the typical sense of like victim, this happened to me, but a
Mhm.
victim is somebody who doesn't believe that they can take action themselves. That's a victim in my mind.
Yeah,
So we have to.
right.
So it's a choice of like how am I going to deal with this? You know what I mean? Do I want to feel good? How do I feel good? Well, I think about what can I do to move forward, as opposed to staying in the story and having the same things happen over and over and over again.
Right. That's interesting. It's kind of like victims don't realize they're choosing to be a victim.
That's right.
They're not even aware of it.
They don't know it.
And
It's
because if they
unconscious
were,
behavior.
they wouldn't be a victim, right?
Right. So it's
Ah,
unconscious. And so how do you get conscious? That's
right.
why I literally write every morning. I just
Right.
say I put on music that I like that makes me feel something, you know, and I
Yeah,
say how, it's usually something from the 70s,
yeah,
something, and I'm just like, how are you doing? Feeling. I would say feeling. What's the
yeah,
feeling? The feeling behind that, and the feeling behind that, and the feeling behind that. Just as opposed to get out a story and try to
yeah,
figure it out. Just don't figure it out. Just
yeah.
what's the feeling? It's
Well,
so
that's why
simple.
12 step works for people because it's that simple acknowledging of the problem, telling your story. It's like a group therapy, and that's why it's worked for so
It
long.
is. It works. It doesn't work great though, unfortunately. I
Yeah,
don't think it works great. I do
yeah,
think
nothing's
that,
perfect, but
yeah,
I'm just saying
it's
it's an
something.
example of that.
It
Yeah.
is, but it's the opposite actually, because what you just
Oh.
said is exact opposite of what I'm saying. It's about getting out of story, because our
Oh.
story is
Oh.
what keeps us in our story.
Right.
If you let go of story, you've got to be willing to let go of what you consider your story to create a new story for yourself.
I know. That's what I
Story
was
you
thinking.
want, not the story that you had.
Yeah. No, that's true because what I realized, right, because 12 step isn't perfect because, right, you have to acknowledge your problem and stand up and say, right,
And
I
this,
am an alcoholic, but then it has to become I was an alcoholic, and then now I'm no longer an alcoholic, or I am sober in the
hmm
positive.
that's right.
And so I think that's what, and I don't know if they do that in 12 step. I'm just using it as a
Not,
way
they
of an
don't.
example.
They don't. It's the same
Right.
thing. But
Right.
also, the speakers that go up there, they go up and they have a new speaker every week, and the speaker that goes up there shares their story. So that means you're replaying everything that you did, that
Yeah.
happened to you, and then that this and then that. But what we want to do, and it's okay to tell your story as long
Yeah.
as you can be detached emotionally from
Evolved
it. But
from
when
it. Yeah.
yeah, but if you have a strong emotional reaction to your story, a visceral reaction to your story still, that means that you've not really addressed it enough. And so, but when you can talk about your story where it's not an emotional charge for you, then you have detached from it, and it will no longer cause you emotional pain and cause you to keep going in circles with the same story. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So
Yeah.
so that's why it's super important to address feeling, you know
Yeah.
and so that you can get through to, just so you can go, oh, so you acknowledge it, you feel it, and now it's in your conscious, and now you can decide, do I want to attach to that? Do I want to think about that? Or I have a choice now. Well, I feel light enough now because I've addressed feeling, I've let it out. It's because all emotion is energy, right? You just want to keep the energy moving. So now I've addressed it. Now what can I do? Okay, great. What can I do to move forward? Oh, I can go outside. I can listen to music. I can dance. I can write. I can call a friend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can just do nothing.
I can do a podcast on a Saturday.
Yeah. I can do my podcast on Saturday and so I can go sell drugs in the park while the sun's out. I mean, I'm a good business person, you know?
Yeah.
And
no, yeah, and I think that's what people have to realize in the future. I think like that's what I want to see this documentary. Send me that.
I will.
That
I'll pull
link,
it up
that's
now
so
so I don't
interesting
forget.
because I want to I have these ideas, you know, another story script that I haven't finished, right?
Yeah.
Is this futuristic thing where, because science fiction is so much always about the technology evolution, and it's like that's, you know, played and boring. I want to know how people are going to be different socially in the future, because that's what something that sci-fi hardly ever addresses. How are we going to be different? Because we're so going to be different. We're obviously different than where we were hundreds of years ago, right? Socially. And so, like, for example, you know, I think we're going to evolve and realize we have to embrace the pain, the negativity, and not see it as this gross negative thing, but as a catalyst for evolution, right? And so in the future, I like, so this is a random scene that I always give people as a preview.
Yeah.
That like these two people are gonna be like, you know, like seeing each other at a market, and they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, congratulations for getting into your first car accident. This is going to be such an amazing learning experience. And that's how people are going to kind of react. Like anything negative, they're always going to see the positive first.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah. And so like, and
oh my God, your grandma died. That's so great. Now you've experienced death for the first time.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And we might see that as a sick joke now, but in the future, that's just going to be the norm, because I think eventually we're going to evolve to that place of embracing, because that's why the universe came up with negativity as a catalyst for evolution, not as this icky, nasty thing that we see it as, this ball of nerves as a human, right?
Right.
And so,
yeah, because if we were satisfied and settled with everything, we wouldn't try to change it.
yeah, and that's why we evolve over time.
Exactly the same. So it's critical that we experience negativity to know to try to get out of it, to make a better decision next time for something better. And when we are better as human beings, we are obviously putting that positive, you know, more evolved energy into the universe, and we're evolving, all of us, as on a full scale, whatever.
Yeah, because it seems like people forget that we evolve. And I always have to say, I'm not talking about Darwin or coming from.
I know, I get it. Yeah.
Right. Or not. But we've obviously evolved. Like, we used to watch public hangings as entertainment. We don't do that anymore. We call it NASCAR. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You know? But with NASCAR, but I think people don't think we really are evolving because it's so slow. And so with NASCAR, that example, the evolution is that we have the probable deniability that we weren't there for the crash, even though a lot of people are there for the crash, but they won't admit that because that's gross and sick.
Right.
But they have the plausible deniability that, oh, I know I'm there for the cars.
Yeah.
What?
Right. Yeah, no, like what you're saying though, it's kind of like, but they don't have a story to tell unless something horrible happens.
Yeah.
Oh, I just went to NASCAR. Oh, it's very exciting. Oh my God, I went to NASCAR and there's guys, there was a big accident and there's, oh my God, really? Well, yeah, yes. Yeah. Now I've got something to talk about for a while, you know?
Right. Because I asked some NASCAR fans, when there's not a crash, is there's kind of like disappointment in the air? And like, I don't know what, like, I don't think they really remembered any of those times. I guess there's always a crash. I don't know.
Okay.
But, it's crazy. But but no, so the point, yeah, whether it's from apes or Adam and Eve, who the hell knows or cares? The
Hmm.
point is we're obviously just through the evidence of history evolving, um, on some level.
Yeah.
And we're going to um like this David Cronenberg movie Crash. This is
I
like
hated
one of
it.
the what?
I hated it.
Okay, but actually that's because it's a very misunderstood movie. It's actually very evolved. It's one of the only sci-fi movies that is actually about this, the evolution of how we evolve socially. So that movie is about these people, they're embracing the pain of their car crash
Hmm.
and making it their fetish.
Hmm.
So it's that evolved psychology
Uh-huh.
of making my pain my pleasure, or my evolution my,
I understand what you're saying.
and
I think,
so
yeah. I was
yeah.
just gonna say reason I didn't like it is because it was so LA, and I was living in LA at the time, and it made me
Oh,
want to fucking vomit. And I
oh,
didn't like the way it was directed at all, and I didn't like the way it was acted at all. So I understand the
right.
idea behind it, but I don't like the execution at all.
Oh, okay.
At all.
Right.
That's why.
And David Cronenberg explained that it was purposely very like mechanical, like, right, the acting was very mechanical because it's like an extension of like us becoming the robot, and
Yeah. They should have executed it better though, because a lot of people I think
yeah,
miss that. And if you're trying to attempt to
I
do something
know,
like it would be great if people actually got it. I
yeah, that's
didn't
why
get
they misunderstood it, yeah.
to
Well,
me
because
it
the
was so
sex thing misunderstood, yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
and I no, that's okay. I was just gonna say that I really um to me it was obvious stuff that he was talking about though, and that was the other
Oh,
part that I had a problem with. It was just so obvious. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. You can't just like you've got to put something else on it. You've got to put
mm,
a robe around a naked body and let it fall off a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? As opposed
okay.
to just have a naked body or have a body with a completely enclosed robe. What I'm trying to say is that there's nuances that I think are important. There are ways of telling story that bringing in, to me, it was so on the nose that it was boring as
And not
fuck.
nuanced.
No nuances. It was so
Right.
boring. So if you're going to tell us these are robots, then make them fucking robots in a dress. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Yeah.
got to be this was because then did you ever see that movie The Secret?
That's the documentary about
Yeah, about law of
willing your
attraction.
thing, willing your
Yeah,
want
well,
into manifestation, right?
yeah, law of
Yeah,
attraction.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
All that's what it's about. And they interviewed all
Yeah,
these people, and then these
yeah, I saw some of it. How
vignettes
it
of
kind of is
people.
silly. Yeah,
Terrible.
yeah,
Like it's like such an important topic, but done so badly that it's embarrassing to even tell somebody you watched it because you can't bear it yourself, and then you don't. But the message matters, and so in
yeah.
terms of the movie you're talking about, I appreciate the message matters, but it needed to be dealt with. I think I forget the director's name, but I don't like that director at all, and I
Well, that's like the only thing they ever made, I think,
at that
because
time, and
they're
now he's
all
done.
about the secret. That's their whole
No, no, no,
thing.
I'm talking about Crash. I'm talking about Crash.
Oh, I thought you meant the secret.
No, no,
Sorry.
no, no.
Oh no, I love David Cronenberg.
D-
Because I think he's misunderstood because he's trying to be commercial, but also very thought provoking. So
Right.
his interviews, if you don't like him, forget the movies. Just listen to him. His interviews are so, he's like the most intellectual director I've ever heard speak.
Okay, well,
And
I'll do
I've,
that. But if you're an intellectual director, you also need somebody with the artistry to work with.
yeah, yeah,
No, really.
no,
No,
yeah.
because I think it's not fair that like if there's making a higher point, then I
It
would have
should
liked
come
to enjoy
across.
it. It should come
Yeah,
across, and also it should be have a more creative license going on here. Make it more interesting. It's okay to what's the word? Work with other people. There's a word I'm like. What's the word for that?
yeah, yeah, like collaboration.
Collaborate.
Yeah.
Collaborate. Such a great word.
Did you see his later movies like A History of Violence,
Um,
James
I
Method,
watched part of it, didn't like it. Again, I
Cosmopolis,
visceral. What's the other one?
Cosmopolis?
No.
It's a Don DeLillo movie um or book that he adapted. But yeah, I mean,
There was
I
another
think
one he did that I didn't like, though. I remember going, "Oh my God, it's that
um uh,
guy."
Eastern Promises,
No,
maybe.
no, it was a
Um,
bigger
but
movie.
but yeah, he
Uh-huh.
maybe a Dangerous Method.
I'm gonna look
But
it up,
yeah,
but I'll look it up because but anyway, so he directed all the movies he wrote.
he writes some, but mostly I think like adapts and does other scripts.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, yeah, it's weird because I've I'm obsessed with directors, have seen all their interviews, and he just seems like the most like deepest, intellectually thought
Mm-hmm.
out
Mm-hmm.
director. And I think that's why his movies kind of go over people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he went over your head. I think you just are kind of over what
Yeah,
he would say.
I'm more
Yeah,
evolved in that way. I
yeah,
don't know anything about so many other things, but there's certain areas I do know about, and I just
yeah.
wish that if you're trying to get a message out, then make it more palpable for people and make it more
That's what he's
interesting.
not good at. That's
Yeah.
true.
So
He's
that's all I'm
palpable to people like me, but not
saying.
everybody's as amazing as me. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, no, yeah. I guess right. And that's another thing about being smart is you have to be smart enough to know that most people are not smart. Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
truly. I mean,
yeah,
because if you have to ask yourself when you're doing something, what is my goal here? Like, what is
yeah.
my priority here? And if that's, it's because to me, it's like whenever you're doing art, it takes a long time, but in it, we all have reasons for doing it. We also have something we're good at, and areas that we're good at, and areas that we're not so good at. Okay, but what do you want people to take away? And that's your priority. What do you want people to take away? Right, let's just say that that's your priority. Well, I want them to take away that, to wake up to how we are processing our lives, or something like that. For in this case, you know what I mean? How are you swallowing, taking in your life,
Yeah.
and what are you then doing with it?
Mhm.
Or what is your perspective, and how is it affecting you? You know what I mean? Your experiences, how they affect you, whatever it is. I'm just throwing that out there, but
Yeah.
the point is that that's it. Then it's an important message that you're trying to get out there. And then how do I get that message out there? By having really wonderful actors, by really having a wonderful script, by having, a more creative balance to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And humor. There was no humor. There was no fucking humor in that
Well, I
movie.
thought the mechanical sex talk in the bed was pretty funny.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I mean, that was
But
pretty
see,
crazy.
again,
But anyway,
but you were understanding what was going on there that
right.
whole time. Whereas to me, I was just like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is a skeleton of an idea, and it needed more clothes on it. That's just my feeling. That's just what I felt.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. But right, a lot of the times people's purpose is I want you to take away less money and leave it with me. That's their it's just a
Yeah,
commercial um purpose to make money. And so
100%, 100%.
um
I got you. Yep.
unfortunately, and then whatever message is then the second priority. And so, but because people are controlled by fear, they just want to survive with their money, and
Hmm.
that's understandable. But
Yep.
I
Yep.
think we can I think we're evolving though, so at least there's that. um
We are evolving.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, that's what kind of helps me sleep at night, is just knowing that like everything will be okay. Everything's intelligently designed with a purpose. And um negativity isn't this nasty thing. It's a catalyst for evolution. We can use it, we can harness it for good. Like you taking your all the crap that happened in your life and making an amazing script, a script you wouldn't have unless you had all that crap happen to you. And so it can we can well, like, and then they said um something about, I forgot what the saying is, but it's like, you know uh a student has weaknesses, but then a master uses their weakness
Mm,
for
I love it.
their power.
Hmm.
you know
Superpower.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, like a master uses their weakness as a superpower.
I love that.
And so, and that's what you're doing with your script,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep.
know?
Yeah. Well, let's get it out there.
Yeah.
Sell this bitch. So
Yeah.
that's what's
So,
happening.
but yeah, this was an amazing podcast. Thank you so much
Thanks for
for,
wanting to do it. It's
yeah, for
fun.
saying yes.
Oh, I say
To
yes
this.
to everyone. Gentlemen, I'll be out in a minute. God,
Oh, we should end with how
animals.
we met. So like
Yeah.
Cynthia was on stage and I'm always like the awkward one sitting in the weird place, which is like behind
Oh
everybody.
yeah.
And so
I
you
forgot
have
all
to
of a
like
sudden.
awkwardly like look back at me, and you were starting to talk to me and saying like, and then you asked me like, oh, like, do I have somebody I'm in love with or something? And I'm like, I'm a single married man. And everybody's like, what? And I'm like, it's an open relationship.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you were like, oh, fuck you. Oh, you need a wedding and get to fuck everybody. God damn it. Like, that was so funny. I was dying.
I
Because,
forgot that that's how this all began. You were
yeah.
sitting behind the stage basically, and I was to get comfortable. I kind of fucked with that table. It was like in the way, and I was like running the mic stand because the mic cord was around the whole table. So I was going around, and there you were. And then I go, hey, how you doing? Whatever it was I said to you, and then I asked you a question, and then the next thing you know, oh, because yeah, you were just so funny. And then you took your glasses off, and I said, oh my God, you're so good looking. And show us your eyes. Seriously, look, no, look straight at the camera. Open your eyes. Look at me.
No, not. I don't think this is.
Do
I don't
you
think
look? Are
this
you
is
looking at
pretty.
the? Look at the camera. Like,
Okay. I
there
don't
you
think
go.
this is
Yes,
pretty.
it does. You're
Okay.
gorgeous. Yes.
Okay.
So when you looked up at me, I went, "Oh my God, oh my stars!" And anyway, then we did that whole thing, and then that whole relationship thing came out of that. I think when you took off
Yeah.
the glasses, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, but that was super fun, and yeah, it's great to meet you and great to talk
Yeah.
to you today. It was really
Yeah.
good.
I'm so relieved to know that you were like a very wise person, and that because like sometimes like you'll talk to people and you'll be like, oh, you don't know much. No, I'm just kidding. But you were like the wise master. Like,
Oh, thanks,
yeah,
thanks.
and you taught me a lot because it for a while it seemed like, oh, am I in a therapy session with
Oh.
is Cynthia my therapist now? Like it was so amazing because you were
Oh,
teaching
good.
me like all that stuff. Like is that maybe things that you just need to know for acting class? I
No,
guess.
it was because I had to process through so much of my life because it was so
Yeah.
hard. So I've been dealing with my stuff for over 30 years and
Okay.
almost,
Beginning with
let me
ordinary
see, let me see,
people.
wait, let me see. Yeah, wait, not longer than that. So it was since,
Oh,
no, it's since 90, yeah, but right, since like 90. So it's like 30, over 30
okay.
years I've been dealing with my stuff. And then also, and then, not longer than I've seen ordinary people. That was longer ago than that.
Right.
And then teaching. So whenever I learn something, I've always had this impulse to share it. And so I felt like, oh, I had this epiphany. I got to share it. And that's how I did my stand up. I would
Yeah.
have a shitty day, cry all day long, and then go, oh my God, what time is it? What am I gonna wear? Doo. You know, like, and then I would whatever my epiphanies were of the day, I would go on stage and I would share it.
Yeah.
And that was how
That's
that was stand up
awesome.
was like my outlet, and it saved my life. So I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good. But I was going to say your t-shirt says 1965 on it.
Oh, Bob Dylan.
Oh, that's the year I was born.
Oh, that's crazy.
I know,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's the same year as Bjork and Stephen Merritt of the
Um,
Magnetic Fields. Do you know the
no,
Magnetic
I don't
Fields?
know them.
Yeah, it's like an indie band. I'm his personal assistant once a
Oh,
month.
cool.
Yeah. And yeah,
Great.
is also 1965, same. So you can just say like my grandma, whenever somebody would ask her
Why do you
age.
have to say pull your grandma into this story?
No, just wait. Because whenever somebody would ask her age, she'd be like, I'm the same age as Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can just say, when somebody asks you your age and you don't want to say, just say, I'm the same age as Bjork.
I wouldn't compare myself. She's
Oh.
too different to me. I don't know.
Well, she looks very young. So
Does she? Does she? Okay.
yeah, for her age, yeah. Or just pick your favorite celebrity who was born in 1965. Just say you're the same age as them.
It sounds old. It sounds like an old thing to do. I don't want to do that. I don't
Okay.
want to. I
Okay.
can't.
That's
Let's
hilarious.
not even talk about it. Let's just say I can't. Can't even believe I told you. It's just that
I'm
that
so
T-shirt
sorry.
meant so much. Anyway, but all right, I'm gonna send you this video. But I'm gonna tell you
Oh, is that her book? Is that how she told the story? Her
the
book?
Hunger of Eve. I think that's her sister holding the book. Yeah, the Hunger of Eve. That's a good
Oh,
question. Yeah, isn't that interesting? But do you
yeah.
hear that? She said the world took a breath, couldn't stop breathing, couldn't breathe, was gasping for air. Did you hear her say that
Yeah.
at the beginning? Talking
So
about
is
the
that maybe the
pandemic.
climate change thing? Or
No,
oh, the pandemic. Okay.
we couldn't breathe.
Right. Yeah.
They lost, people couldn't breathe. They lost their breath. They weren't, and then everything from that, everything stopped. And then she said everything stopped.
Oh,
Everything stopped. And then an empathy came out of that. And then that was the riots and the protests and
yeah.
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 So I mean everything, police brutality,
Because we had the time to protest.
that's right.
Before we were going to work every day, we didn't have
That's
the time.
right. That's
So the
right.
well, and then
And
also
it
the other end
forced
of
us
it.
to focus on the healthcare
Yeah.
system, on,
Yeah.
I can't think of his name right now, the one that was beaten and put the choked
George Floyd.
George Floyd. Like
Yeah.
he was the thing that stood out,
Martyr.
the
Yeah.
martyr, yeah, under the circumstances, yeah. But he was the big wake up call that happened at the right exact time.
Yeah.
Everything is about timing, and
Yeah.
how and whether that's going to have a profound effect on the world around him. So that was his purpose, that was his
Yeah.
path, and it was
Yeah.
huge and it was critical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the other end of it is that people then had time to storm the Capitol. And I think that was an evolution that
absolutely.
why people eventually will wake up politically and just know they have to vote because there's more liberals in the world, but they are too lazy. They're not as
Well, we've gotten
energetic.
complacent
Yeah.
because your needs are being met. So when your needs aren't
Yeah.
being met, you're going to have to, if you have an opportunity, you're going to have to fight for it.
Yeah.
Just like people don't get upset about stuff that that they're not being
That's
affected by.
that's why I thought the overturning of Roe v. Wade is actually a great thing because this will wake people up. It'll get them to vote and actually um, create good change. And what's crazy is that the conservatives don't see that coming. They
Yeah,
don't see overturning Roe v. Wade is you're going to create a tsunami
that's right. You're
of
poking
voters
it.
against you. Like,
That's
are you
right.
crazy? But they
That's
don't
right.
see it that way.
That's right. They've opened up the cage of the I don't know who's it, the lions, the lions
Yeah, like
cage.
Trump was that. Yeah.
Right.
And
So they're going to come storming out. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's
yeah.
unfortunate we have to deal with it, but obviously it's an unresolved issue. So
Yeah, yeah.
it needs stronger laws, and the
Yeah.
laws, the way they've been on there, are being unearthed now because they were just completely being, just right under the surface, just
Yeah.
grumbling and only affecting certain people, and now it's affecting everybody.
Yeah, and I think like a good place to end and wrap up is that no matter what happens, good or bad, good comes of it.
Yes.
And so like everybody can just stay calm, sleep well at night because we're
Right.
all evolving. It's all gonna be
Exactly.
intelligently designed. We're all gonna evolve to a utopia, and that's when the sun explodes in thousands of years.
Right. So in the
That's my theory, but
no, that's fine. And in the meantime, do things that make you feel good.
yeah.
Think about things that make you feel good. Those
Yeah.
are two really important things that will cause you to have a better life regardless of circumstances.
Yeah, and that's why people make those positive goals their mantra. Like when you meditate, um, that's another thing. Like meditation, they're like the David Lynch Foundation is like getting meditation in schools, and like kids are meditating,
Yeah,
and that's gonna be an evolution.
David Lynch he's part of the transcendental meditation, which a lot of people are
Mhm.
against, though, for other
Oh,
reasons.
oh, really?
Yeah, so
Oh, we have to talk
he's
about that next
yeah.
podcast. Okay, because I didn't hear about that yet.
Yeah, he's a transcendental meditator, and people have a lot. There's a lot of kickback about that, and
Okay,
it's what they call it like another cult as well. And they're also money takers. And but again, then there's
right.
some people like Seinfeld and a lot of other people who do
It's
it and have been
true.
doing it, and it's really helped them. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like
But I guess looking on the positive side, I'd rather have cults like that than the old types of cults. Do you know what I mean? At least maybe it's still a cult, which is I guess what humans just do.
hmm
But at least it's an evolved cult, I guess.
kind of. They're making sure they're making their money though, and I think
Yeah.
and to the degree of like keeping out information out of the world, just like Scientology does. It just keeps it. They have their own language. Do you know what I mean? It's something you have to pay
Yeah.
thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for.
That's kind of what I was seeing. I was
There's no
watching
spirituality in that, but you must be
a
rich.
conversation between him and Russell Brand, and then they did
Gross.
the telethon donation raising afterwards, and then it kind of was like, oh,
It's
yeah.
gross. And Russell
But
Brand
uh,
is also gross, and he's got so many issues. I mean, seriously,
I know nobody's perfect, but yeah,
no, but these are extremes. Do you know what I mean? These are
yeah,
extremes. These are extremes.
okay,
But I understand what the draw is. But
yeah,
then, but there's also
yeah,
a power thing.
yeah.
Power, and power is bad news. It's
We're gonna
bad.
talk about that next because it's about to cut off again. But this, I think, is a good place to end. So thank you so much, Cynthia. You're amazing.
Nice to talk to you, Rhett. You
You're
too.
an
You're
amazing
amazing.
soul. I
Oh, you
love you.
too. I love
Okay.
you too. I look forward to seeing you
Yeah. Thanks.
again.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah. See you. Bye.